Welcome to Monk's Temple. Find a comfortable position. Perhaps you're lying in bed, the weight of the day finally settling into the mattress beneath you. Perhaps you're sitting in your favorite chair, a warm cup of tea cooling beside you. Wherever you are, know that you've just crossed the threshold into a different kind of space. Not a physical space, but a space of intention. A space of listening. Tonight, we are going to explore a capacity so fundamental, so innate, that we often overlook it entirely. We are going to explore the art of deep listening. Not just hearing the sounds of the world, but listening in a way that transforms, heals, and connects. In the Buddhist tradition, this is the path of the Kalyāṇa-mitta, a beautiful term that translates to admirable friend or Dharma Friend. It is someone who walks beside you on the path, not ahead dragging you, not behind pushing you, but beside you, truly hearing you. But before we dive into the vastness of this practice, let's begin as we always do at Monk's Temple. Let's take a collective breath. Just one, deep, intentional breath. Inhale, and as you exhale, imagine letting go of the need to do anything. There is nothing to fix here. There is no problem to solve. There is only the present moment, and the simple, profound act of being here to witness it. Good. Let's begin. There is a story I often recall when I think about the state of our modern minds. It's about a young woman named Sarah, a software engineer living in a city that never sleeps. Sarah was brilliant at her job. She could debug the most complex lines of code, visualizing entire digital architectures in her head. But when it came to the analog world, the world of human beings, she felt utterly lost. One evening, after a particularly grueling day of back-to-back video calls, where she realized she hadn't truly heard a single word anyone had said, she came home to her partner, Mark. Mark had had a difficult day himself. His project at work had been shelved, months of effort gone. He started to tell her about it, the frustration, the disappointment, the quiet fear about what it meant for his role in the company. As he spoke, Sarah nodded. She made the right sounds, wow, that's tough. But in her head, she was mentally replying to an email she'd forgotten to send, and planning what to cook for dinner. She was hearing the words, but she wasn't listening to the man. Mark stopped mid-sentence. He looked at her, his eyes holding a mixture of sadness and resignation. He didn't get angry. He just said, quietly, "You're not really here, are you? You're just processing me." That word, processing, hit Sarah like a ton of bricks. She was treating her partner like a piece of code. Something to be analyzed, categorized, and filed away. She was reacting to the noise of his words, but she was missing the music. The subtle shifts in his tone, the pain behind his eyes, the unspoken plea for comfort. This is the condition of the modern listener. We are bombarded by a symphony of noise, notifications, alerts, the constant hum of information. We've become expert at filtering, scanning, and processing, but we've forgotten how to simply receive. We listen to reply, to problem solve, to offer a solution that makes us feel useful, rather than listening just to understand. In the Buddhist framework, this is like being trapped in what's called the monkey mind. Our consciousness swings from branch to branch, past to future, anxiety to planning, never resting in the present. True listening, deep listening, is the practice of taming that monkey. It's the art of holding a single, clear note in a world full of noise. If you find value in this practice of taming the monkey mind and learning to be truly present for yourself and others, please consider subscribing to Monk's Temple. By subscribing, you're not just following a channel, you're making a commitment to your own journey of mindfulness, ensuring that these teachings are here for you whenever you need a place to return to. Just click the subscribe button below. It's a small act that supports a space for deep listening in a noisy world. So, if deep listening is the goal, what are the obstacles? Buddhism is incredibly pragmatic. It doesn't just tell us to be good listeners, it gives us a detailed map of what prevents it. These are known as the Five Hindrances. Think of them not as sins or failings, but as 5 distinct types of weather patterns in the mind that obscure the clear sky of understanding. When we're trying to listen to a friend, we need to learn to see the weather. The first hindrance is sensory desire. This is when our attention is pulled away by something more appealing than the person speaking. During a conversation, this might be the buzz of your phone in your pocket. The desire to check it, to see who liked your post, to escape the potential difficulty of the conversation for the easy dopamine hit of a notification. It's also the desire for a more pleasant experience. If your friend is talking about something uncomfortable, the mind might drift to a pleasant memory, a daydream about a vacation, or even just the thought of the dessert you're going to have later. It's the mind seeking pleasure to avoid the present moment's potential for pain or boredom. The second hindrance is ill will. This is the opposite of desire. It's the feeling of aversion, irritation, or anger that arises when we listen. Perhaps your friend is saying something you disagree with. Immediately, a wall goes up. You're no longer listening. You're formulating your counterargument. You're building a case in your head. Or perhaps their tone of voice, or the way they're expressing themselves, irritates you. This aversion acts like a filter, coloring everything they say with your own negative emotion. You're not hearing them, you're hearing your own annoyance projected onto them. The third hindrance is sloth and torpor. This is the heaviness, the drowsiness, the mental fog that can descend. You're sitting there, and you want to listen, but your mind feels like it's wading through molasses. Maybe the conversation is late at night, or the topic is complex, or you're just exhausted from your own day. This isn't just physical tiredness, it's a mental dullness. It's the feeling of the conversation fading into background static. You hear sounds, but they don't form coherent meaning. The fourth hindrance is restlessness and worry. This is the opposite of sloth. It's an agitated energy. Your mind is racing ahead. What should I say next? What if they get upset? What does this mean for me? Oh no, I forgot to send that email. Your body might feel fidgety. You might want to interrupt, to speed the conversation along. You're listening to the future, to the potential consequences, not to the person in front of you. This anxiety creates a kind of mental static that drowns out their voice. The fifth hindrance is doubt. This is the most insidious one. It's the voice in your head that says, "This is pointless. They're never going to change. I'm not good at this. What's the use of listening anyway?" It's skepticism directed at the process itself. It cuts the cord of connection before it can even form. Doubt prevents us from being fully present because we've already judged the entire endeavor as futile. A modern example of these hindrances at work is the classic conversation during a family dinner where someone brings up politics. Sensory desire pulls you to check your phone for a sanity check. Ill will arises as you listen to an opinion you find abhorrent. Restlessness makes you want to interrupt and correct them. Doubt whispers, "Why even bother? They'll never listen." And sloth and torpor can make the whole affair feel so draining you just want to shut down. We leave these conversations feeling exhausted, not because of the topic, but because of the internal war we fought with our own hindrances. Deep listening is the practice of noticing these weather patterns without getting caught in the storm. It's seeing the desire, the aversion, the restlessness arise, and simply saying, "Ah, there you are. Not now. I'm listening." How do we build the capacity to see these hindrances without being swept away by them? The Buddha didn't just diagnose the problem, he offered a practical training manual. It's called the threefold training: sila, samadhi, and panna, ethics, concentration, and wisdom. This isn't just for monks in robes. It's the very architecture of the inner ear, the structure we build to become a Dharma friend. Sila, ethics, is the foundation. In the context of listening, ethics means creating a container of safety. It means establishing the intention. I will not harm this person with my listening. This seems simple, but it's profound. It means committing to not using what you hear against them later. It means setting aside your own agenda. It means creating a confidential, non-judgmental space in your own heart. I recall a friend of mine, a therapist named David, who once told me about the most important tool in his office. It wasn't his degrees on the wall or his notepad. It was a small, smooth stone he kept on the table between him and his clients. He called it the witness stone. He explained that before a session began, he would touch the stone and silently remind himself, "I am here to witness, not to fix. I am here to hold space, not to fill it." That stone was a physical reminder of his ethical commitment. You can create your own version of this. It might be touching your thumb and forefinger together, or taking a single breath before a difficult conversation, silently dedicating yourself to the ethic of harmlessness. This simple act of sila is the first step to becoming a true listener. Samadhi, concentration, is the tool. This is the ability to focus the mind single-pointedly on the act of listening. We train this through practices like meditation. When you sit on a cushion and focus on your breath, and your mind wanders, and you gently bring it back, you are building the muscle of attention. You are strengthening your mind's ability to stay connected to a single object. Then, when you're in a conversation, you can apply that same muscle. You focus on their words, their face, the emotion behind their eyes. When a hindrance arises, a thought about what to make for dinner, you notice it, just like you notice the wandering mind on the cushion, and you gently bring your attention back to the person in front of you. This is the practice. It's not about perfect, unwavering focus. It's about the gentle, persistent return. Panna, wisdom, is the light. This is the insight that arises from sustained, ethical attention. As you listen with concentration, you begin to see beyond the words. You see the patterns. You see the fear behind the anger, the sadness behind the criticism. You see the universal human truths in their personal story. You realize, this person is suffering. Their suffering is taking this form right now, but it's the same suffering I know. This isn't intellectual analysis. It's a direct, heartfelt seeing. It's the wisdom that connects you, that dissolves the illusion of separation. When you listen with sila, focused with samadhi, you naturally see with panna. And in that seeing, healing can begin. Now, let's introduce a foundational teaching that illuminates the pain of not being heard and the profound relief of being truly met. It's the parable of the two arrows. The Buddha once asked his students, if an archer shoots you with an arrow, does it hurt? They said, yes. He then asked, if a second archer shoots you with another arrow, at the same spot, does it hurt even more? Yes, greatly so, they replied. The first arrow is the unavoidable pain of life. It's the difficult situation itself. Mark's project being shelved. Sarah's exhaustion. A friend losing a loved one. An unexpected illness. This first arrow is part of the human condition. We cannot always prevent it from being shot. The second arrow is the one we shoot ourselves. It is the story we add on top of the pain. It's the self-judgment. It's the, I shouldn't feel this way. It's the, why does this always happen to me? It's the shame, the guilt, the anxiety about the future. And crucially, in the context of listening, the second arrow is the experience of being met with silence, dismissal, or processing, when we are in pain. The pain of the situation is the first arrow. The pain of isolation, of feeling unheard and unseen in our suffering, is the devastating second arrow. Think of a time you shared something vulnerable with someone. Maybe you told a friend you were struggling with your mental health. And they responded with, "Oh, have you tried exercising more? That always helps me." On the surface, they're trying to help. But inside, you felt it. The sting of the second arrow. They didn't see you. They saw a problem to be solved. They shot you with the arrow of invalidation, layering your original pain with the sharp, isolating feeling of not being understood. Now, imagine a different scenario. You share the same vulnerable thing, and the person just looks at you. They don't offer advice. They don't try to fix it. They just nod, their eyes soft with understanding. They might simply say, "That sounds incredibly hard. I'm here with you." In that moment, they are not shooting a second arrow. They are, in fact, standing beside you, helping you tend to the wound of the first. They are being a Dharma friend. They are practicing deep listening. They are pulling out the arrow of isolation with the gentle hand of presence. The practice of being a Dharma friend is the practice of laying down our own quiver of arrows. It's the commitment to not add to another's pain with our judgments, our advice, our need to fix, or our inability to simply be present. Let me tell you a story about a man named Arthur. Arthur was a retired history professor, a man of facts and dates and precision. His wife of 53 years, Eleanor, had passed away the previous spring. Arthur was lost. He moved through his days in a fog of grief, but it was a tidy, academic fog. He could talk about Eleanor. He could tell you the story of how they met, the date of their wedding, the names of all the places they'd traveled. But he couldn't feel it. The feelings were too vast, too chaotic for his orderly mind. His neighbor, a young woman named Chloe, was an art therapist. She was about the same age as his granddaughter. One afternoon, she found Arthur standing in his driveway, staring at the garage door, unable to remember why he'd walked out of the house. She didn't say, "Are you okay, Arthur?" or "Can I help you with something?" She just walked over and stood beside him, looking at the garage door too. They stood there in silence for a full minute. Finally, Arthur said, "I don't know why I'm out here." Chloe just said, "That's okay. Sometimes the destination isn't the point of the journey." A few weeks later, Chloe found Arthur sitting on his porch steps, holding one of Eleanor's old gardening gloves. He wasn't crying. He was just holding it, turning it over and over in his hands. Chloe sat down on the step below him, so she was slightly lower, looking up at him. She didn't ask about the glove. She just sat. After a long while, Arthur spoke. His voice was different. It wasn't the lecturing tone of the professor. It was small, like a child's. He said, "She used to sing to her roses. Did you know that? She had this old, off-key voice, and she'd sing 'Moon River' to the roses while she watered them. I used to think it was silly." He paused, his voice cracking. "I would give anything to hear that silly voice again." Chloe didn't say, "She's in a better place," or, "You have your memories." She didn't say anything. She just reached up and gently placed her hand on his ankle for a moment, a brief, warm pressure, and then let go. They sat in silence as the sun began to set. Arthur later told his daughter that it was the first moment since Eleanor died that he didn't feel completely alone. Chloe hadn't solved anything. She hadn't offered any wisdom. She had just provided a silent, safe container for his grief to exist. She had been present. She had listened not with her ears, but with her entire being. She had become his Dharma friend. This is the power of deep listening. It's not about having the right words. It's about having the right presence. It's about being willing to sit with someone in the garage of their confusion, or on the porch steps of their grief, without needing to lead them anywhere. How do we cultivate this quality of presence? The Buddha offered another profound framework that we can directly apply to listening. It's called the Satipatthana, or the Four Foundations of Mindfulness. Usually applied to meditation, we can use these as 4 different listening stations to tune into another person. The first foundation is mindfulness of the body, Kalyāṇa-mitta. When you are listening to someone, where is your body? Are your arms crossed? Are you leaning away? Are you fidgeting? Your body is constantly broadcasting a message. To be a Dharma friend, you bring awareness to your own body, and you use it as an instrument of connection. You can consciously adopt a posture of receptivity, face them, lean slightly forward, uncross your arms and legs. But more than that, you can listen to their body. What is their posture telling you? Are their shoulders tight? Are their hands clenched? Are they shrinking into themselves? By being mindful of the body, you can hear the story their physical form is telling, a story their words may be trying to hide. The second foundation is mindfulness of feelings, Vedana-nupassana. In Buddhism, feelings aren't emotions like anger or sadness. They are the basic, primal tone of an experience, pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. As you listen, tune into this. Is the experience they are describing pleasant for them? Are they savoring a happy memory? Or is it predominantly unpleasant? Do they wince as they speak? And what about the feeling tone in you as you listen? Is listening to them pleasant? Is it unpleasant, making you want to escape? Or is it neutral, and your mind is starting to drift? Recognizing these basic feeling tones in yourself and in them is like having a compass. It tells you where the energy is. If you notice your own feeling of unpleasantness arise, you can see it as a hindrance, aversion, and return to listening, rather than being driven by it. The third foundation is mindfulness of mind, Citta-nupassana. This is mindfulness of the state of consciousness itself. Is your mind, or theirs, caught in a state of grasping? Is it filled with desire? Is it angry? Is it dull and foggy? Is it scattered and restless? This is a more nuanced level of listening. You're not just listening to the story, you're listening to the overall weather system of their mind. You might hear a friend talking about a promotion, but if you're mindful of their mind state, you might sense that underneath the words of excitement, their mind is actually gripped by fear. Fear of the new responsibility. You are hearing the subtle quality of their awareness. The fourth foundation is mindfulness of dhammas, Dhammanupassana. This is the most advanced level. It's listening through the lens of the Buddha's teachings themselves. It's seeing their story in light of universal truths. You might hear their struggle and recognize the truth of suffering, dukkha. You might see how their grasping for things to be different is the cause of their suffering, samudaya. You might witness a moment where they let go, and you see the potential for peace, nirodha. You are not analyzing intellectually, you are seeing the Dharma, the natural law, manifesting in their human experience. This perspective brings a vast, compassionate understanding. You see them not just as an individual with a problem, but as a living example of the human condition, struggling and awakening just like you. There is a powerful practice in Zen Buddhism called Shoshin, or beginner's mind. It means approaching an experience as if for the first time, without preconceptions. In listening, this is the gift of not knowing. I once witnessed a powerful example of this between a young mother named Priya and her 7-year-old son, Leo. Leo came home from school one day, threw his backpack on the floor, and announced, "I'm never going back. School is stupid." Priya's first instinct, her expert mind, kicked in. She wanted to ask, "Did something happen? Did someone bully you? Did you get a bad grade? Did you not finish your lunch?" All of these were attempts to diagnose the problem. But she had been practicing mindfulness. She paused. She took a breath. She sat down on the floor, bringing herself to his level, and instead of asking a question, she just said, "Wow. You feel really strongly about that. Tell me more." Leo plopped down next to her, his little face scrunched up in frustration. "It's just..." He started, then stopped. He was quiet for a moment. Priya waited, holding the space, not filling it with her own guesses. Finally, Leo said, "In story time, Mrs. Davison was reading this book about a kid who goes to the moon. And in the book, the kid's mom packed him a cheese sandwich for the journey." Priya nodded, still listening. She had no idea where this was going. Her beginner's mind was wide open. Leo continued, his voice getting more upset. "And Jake, who sits next to me," he leaned over and whispered, "you can't eat cheese on the moon. It would float away." And then everyone laughed. Priya's expert mind immediately offered a diagnosis. He was embarrassed. He felt laughed at. But she didn't say that. She just said, "And what happened then?" Leo looked at her, his eyes wide. "I told him that's not true. Astronauts eat cheese. They have special pouches. But he said I was stupid. So I punched him." Priya's heart sank. Now she had the full picture. It wasn't about the moon or the cheese. It was about the humiliation, the defense of his dignity, and the resulting consequence of hitting someone. If she had jumped in with her first question, "Did you hit someone?" the conversation would have been about punishment and behavior. Instead, by approaching with beginner's mind, by genuinely not knowing, she allowed the entire story to unfold organically. She got to hear the poetry of his logic. The moon, the cheese, the injustice of being called stupid for a scientific inaccuracy. She got to understand the world from his 7-year-old perspective. Only after he had fully expressed himself did she gently move to the topic of hitting. And because he felt heard, because the whole, strange, beautiful story of his day had been received with acceptance, he was open to listening to her. They talked about better ways to handle feeling embarrassed. But that conversation was only possible because Priya had first given him the gift of not knowing. To be a Dharma friend, we must constantly cultivate this beginner's mind. We must let go of the idea that we already know what someone is going to say, or that we know what's best for them. We must be willing to be surprised by their truth. Deep listening is not a passive activity. It is an active, dynamic, and courageous practice. The Buddha placed it at the very heart of his teaching, the Noble Eightfold Path, under the umbrella of right speech. But right speech is impossible without its silent partner, right listening. The path is often depicted as 8 spokes on a wheel, all interconnected. You can't have one without the others. Right view and right intention are the wisdom that informs our listening. Right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration are the mental disciplines we've been discussing. And right livelihood is taking this practice out into the world. But right speech has a very specific quality. The Buddha said that one should speak only that which is true, helpful, and kind, and only at the right time. A Dharma friend uses their listening to discern the right time. Consider a scenario. Your colleague at work, a man named Ben, is known for being overly confident, sometimes to the point of arrogance. In a team meeting, he presents an idea that you know is flawed. Your initial reaction, fueled by past frustration, might be to immediately point out the flaw. But right listening asks you to pause. You listen not just to his words, but to the man. You hear a slight tremor in his voice. You see him grip the sides of the podium a little too tightly. You notice he avoids eye contact with the senior manager in the room. Your listening reveals that his bravado is a shield for deep-seated insecurity. He's not just presenting an idea. He's asking for validation. With this insight, your right speech transforms. You don't say, "That won't work because of X, Y, and Z." Instead, you might say, "Ben, that's a really interesting direction. I'm particularly curious about how we might navigate," mention a specific potential challenge. What are your thoughts on that? You are speaking truth, there is a challenge, you are being helpful, opening a dialogue, you are being kind, not attacking him. And you've chosen the right time, in the meeting, but in a way that saves face. You have used your listening to inform your speech. You have acted as a Dharma friend, protecting his dignity while also guiding the conversation toward a more productive outcome. This is the active, engaged practice of deep listening. It's not about being a passive sponge, it's about being an intelligent, compassionate presence that helps the other person, and the situation, find its way to clarity. We often think of the Dharma friend as the strong one, the one who has it all together, the one who does the listening. But true friendship on the path is reciprocal. There are times when the listener needs to be listened to. I think of 2 old friends, Margaret and Ruth. They had known each other since college, over 40 years. Their friendship was built on a rhythm of mutual support. Margaret was the fiery, outspoken one, always ready with a plan and a pep talk. Ruth was the quiet, steady one, the patient listener. When Ruth's husband was diagnosed with a serious illness, Margaret was in her element. She drove her to appointments, researched treatment options, made meal trains. She was the perfect fixer. But a year later, when Ruth's husband went into remission, something strange happened. Margaret fell apart. She became irritable, withdrawn, and started canceling their weekly lunches. One day, Ruth showed up at Margaret's door unannounced. She found her sitting in the dark, staring at the wall. Margaret looked up, and for the first time in their 40-year friendship, Ruth saw something she'd never seen before: utter vulnerability. Margaret, the strong one, the fixer, looked completely broken. Ruth didn't say a word. She didn't ask, "What's wrong?" or "How can I help?" She simply walked over, sat down on the floor beside Margaret's chair, and leaned her head against her friend's knee. She just rested there. After a long time, Margaret's hand came down and rested on Ruth's hair. And then, Margaret began to talk. She talked about the fear she'd been carrying for the past year, not just for Ruth, but the terror it had stirred up in her about her own mortality. She talked about the pressure she felt to be strong, the exhaustion of doing instead of feeling. She talked about how, now that the crisis was over, all that suppressed fear was flooding back, and she didn't know what to do with it. Ruth just listened. She didn't offer a single piece of advice. She didn't say, "But you were so helpful." She didn't try to reframe it. She just let her friend pour out her heart, holding the space with her physical presence. She became the listener for the listener. This is the reciprocity of Dharma friendship. It's not a hierarchy. It's a circle. We take turns holding the space. We take turns being the witness. And in that mutual vulnerability, the friendship deepens into something sacred. It becomes a refuge for both. In our culture of fast-paced dialogue and quick-witted responses, silence has become a void to be filled. We interrupt to show we're engaged, to finish someone's sentence, to share a similar story, to offer the solution we've already formulated. But interruption, even with good intentions, is a form of violence against someone's narrative. It says, "What I have to say is more important than what you are saying." It derails their train of thought and, often, their train of feeling. The practice of deep listening requires us to master the art of the pause. When someone finishes a sentence, we must learn to count to 3, or even 5, in our heads before we respond. This pause serves multiple purposes. First, it allows their words to truly land. It gives you a moment to absorb not just the content, but the emotional weight. It prevents you from reacting and allows you to respond. Second, it gives them space. Often, when we pause, the speaker will continue. They will add a deeper layer, a more vulnerable detail. And another thing is, they might say, and then reveal the thing that really matters. If we jump in too quickly, we cut them off from their own deeper truth. We settle for the surface story. I once worked with a man named Carlos, a high-powered lawyer, who was trying to be a better listener for his teenage daughter. He told me about a conversation they'd had. She came to him, upset about a fight with a friend. He listened, and when she finished, he had a dozen legal-style arguments ready to prove why her friend was wrong. But he remembered the practice of the pause. He forced himself to count to 3. In that 3 seconds, his daughter's face changed. She took a breath, and then she said, "But I think what really hurts is that when she said that, it reminded me of how you and Mom used to fight." Carlos was stunned. If he had jumped in with his arguments, he would have solved the surface problem and completely missed the real wound, the one that connected to him. That 3-second pause allowed his daughter the space to make that connection herself. The pause is not empty. It is a fertile void, a space where insight can be born. As a Dharma friend, you must learn to love and trust this silence. It is often where the most profound communication happens. The glue that holds all of these practices together is metta, or loving kindness. Without it, listening can become a cold, clinical exercise. You can be mindful of someone's body, feelings, and mind, and still be detached. Metta is the warmth that makes your presence a comfort. It is the unconditional wish for the well-being of the other person. When you listen with metta, you are not just a witness, you are a mirror that reflects back their inherent worthiness. You see them, and in your eyes, they see that they are seen, and that in being seen, they are okay. There is a simple, beautiful practice you can do while listening to someone. As they speak, silently in your heart, repeat a simple phrase for them. It might be, "May you be happy. May you be peaceful. May you be free from suffering." You don't say it out loud. You just hold that intention as a background hum to your listening. I remember a woman named Anita telling me about a difficult conversation she had with her aging father. He was becoming forgetful and was resistant to any talk of getting help. He was angry, accusatory, and said hurtful things. In the past, Anita would have reacted, defending herself, trying to reason with him. But this time, as he spoke, she silently repeated in her mind, "May you be happy. May you be peaceful. May you be free from suffering." She told me it was transformative. It didn't make his words any less hurtful, but it changed her internal experience. Instead of feeling like a victim of his anger, she felt like a container for his fear. She realized his anger wasn't about her, it was a manifestation of his own terror at losing his independence. The metta practice allowed her to hear the suffering behind the words. It softened her heart, and instead of arguing, she was able to reach out and take his hand. He looked at her, surprised, and his anger seemed to deflate. They didn't solve the problem of his care in that moment, but they connected. The metta in her heart had created a bridge across the chasm of his fear. This is the ultimate gift of the Dharma friend, to look at another person, even in their most unlovable moment, and hold the space for them to be free from the very suffering that is making them so difficult to love. Let me share a story from my own life, one that taught me a hard lesson about listening. I had a friend named Sam. Sam was brilliant, creative, but also perpetually on the edge of chaos. His life was a series of brilliant ideas that never quite materialized, and relationships that burned bright and then fizzled out. We would often meet for coffee, and he would pour out his latest frustration. His landlord was unfair, his boss didn't appreciate him, his girlfriend didn't understand him. And I, in my wisdom, would listen for a while, and then I would start offering solutions. Have you tried communicating your needs more clearly? Maybe you should look for a new job. Have you considered that the common denominator in these situations might be I thought I was being helpful. I was using my analytical mind to solve his problems. One day, after I'd offered yet another piece of well-intentioned advice, Sam just looked at me. He didn't look angry. He looked tired. He said, "You know, sometimes I don't need you to hand me a new pot. Sometimes I just need you to sit with me and look at the broken pieces." That sentence hit me like a thunderclap. He was right. I was so focused on the goal of fixing him, of making his life neat and tidy like a pot without cracks, that I was completely missing the point of our friendship. I wasn't a Dharma friend, I was a handyman, showing up with my toolbox to fix a leaky pipe. But a person's life isn't a leaky pipe. It's a mosaic. And the broken pieces are part of the picture. They hold the story. From that day on, I tried a different approach. The next time Sam came to me with a problem, I just listened. I didn't offer any solutions. I didn't try to reframe it. I just nodded and said, "That sounds really hard. Tell me more about how that felt." And he did. He talked for 2 hours. And at the end of it, he didn't have a solution. But he looked more peaceful. He looked less alone. He thanked me, and said, "I just needed to say all that out loud." The broken pieces were still there, scattered on the floor between us. But now, they were arranged in a way that we could both see them. And somehow, that was enough. This is the essence of being a Dharma friend. It's not about fixing. It's about witnessing. It's about having the courage to look at the broken pieces with someone, without flinching, without needing to glue them back together immediately. It's about understanding that sometimes, the greatest act of love is simply to acknowledge the mess. We've spoken a lot about listening to words, to body language, to emotions. But a Dharma friend also learns to listen to what is not being said. They learn to listen to the spaces between the words, the silences that are not empty but full of unspoken meaning. There is a famous story in the Zen tradition about two monks, a master and a student, who were walking in silence. After a long time, the student said, "Master, the silence is so loud today." The master smiled and replied, "Then you are finally learning to hear." What does it mean to hear the silence? It means being attuned to the energy of what is being withheld. It's noticing the topic that is carefully avoided. It's feeling the hesitation before a word is spoken. It's sensing the sadness that is covered by a too bright smile. I recall a session with a woman named Elena. She came to talk about her work stress, but as she spoke, I noticed something. Whenever she mentioned her home life, she would pause, just for a fraction of a second, and then she would steer the conversation back to work. It was like watching someone navigate around a pothole in the road. The words about work were flowing, but the spaces around the topic of home were thick with tension. Instead of asking a direct question, I just reflected what I was hearing in the silence. I said, "Elena, I noticed that whenever you start to talk about home, there's a little pause, and then we come back to the office. I'm wondering what might be in that pause." She was quiet for a long time. The silence in the room grew heavy. Then, she started to cry. She told me that her teenage son was struggling with depression, and she felt like a complete failure as a mother. She was terrified to talk about it, because saying it out loud made it real. The work stress was a safe, manageable topic. The silence was guarding a cavern of fear and self-blame. By listening to the space between her words, I was able to gently invite her to enter that cavern, not alone, but with a companion. The healing didn't come from discussing work-life balance. It came from having the courage to break the silence around her deepest pain. A Dharma friend learns that the most important part of the conversation is often the part that no one is speaking. They learn to listen to the whispers of the heart that hide in the quiet. Loneliness is one of the great epidemics of our modern age. We are more connected digitally and more isolated emotionally than ever before. Deep listening is a powerful, perhaps the most powerful, antidote to this loneliness. It is the act of building a bridge of attention from one human being to another, a bridge that says, "You exist. You matter. I see you." I once volunteered at a retirement home, a place that could be a warehouse of loneliness. Rows of people, each in their own small room, their lives reduced to a few pieces of furniture and a television. I met a woman there named Clara. She was 94, sharp as a tack, but her body had failed her. She was confined to a wheelchair, and her family lived on the other side of the country. Our first few visits were awkward. I would ask her questions, and she would give polite, short answers. "How are you today, Clara?" "Fine, thank you." "Did you sleep well?" "Yes." There was a wall there, built from years of being asked superficial questions by well-meaning strangers. One day, I decided to just stop asking questions. I pulled up a chair next to her wheelchair, so we were both facing the large window that looked out onto the garden. I didn't say anything. I just sat with her, looking at the birds at the feeder. We sat in silence for maybe 10 minutes. It was a long, comfortable silence. Finally, Clara spoke. She didn't look at me. She just said, "My husband, George, he used to love the cardinals. He'd say they were the souls of old firefighters, come back to check on us." She smiled a little. "He was a firefighter, you see." And then she started talking. She talked about George for an hour. How they met at a dance in 1948. How he proposed on the Brooklyn Bridge. How he would always bring her a single red rose, every Friday, for 56 years. She talked about the night he died, peacefully in his sleep, and how she woke up and just knew, because the room felt empty in a way it never had before. I didn't say a word. I just listened. I listened to her love story, her life story, told through the lens of her grief. When she finished, she was crying softly, but she was also smiling. She reached over and patted my hand. "Thank you," she said. "No one has wanted to hear about George in a very long time." In that hour, by simply being present and listening, I hadn't just passed the time for Clara. I had reconnected her with her own life. I had validated her love, her loss, her history. I had seen the young woman at the dance, the bride on the bridge, the wife waiting for her Friday rose. I had seen her. And in being seen, for that hour, she was not lonely. She was, once again, the main character in the story of her own life, not just a forgotten resident in a retirement home. This is the power of the Dharma Friend, to restore a person's sense of their own significance through the simple, profound act of attention. We cannot offer to others what we do not have for ourselves. To be a true Dharma friend to your peers, you must first learn to be a Dharma friend to yourself. This means cultivating the same quality of deep, non-judgmental listening inwardly. It means turning the light of awareness onto your own inner world. Your inner world is a constant stream of voices. There's the inner critic, pointing out your flaws. There's the anxious voice, worrying about the future. There's the regretful voice, replaying past mistakes. There's the planner, the dreamer, the frustrated one. Our typical response is to get caught up in these voices, to argue with them, or to try to shut them down. We react to our inner noise the same way we react to outer noise, with aversion or grasping. Learning to be your own Dharma friend means learning to listen to these voices with the same qualities we've been discussing. It means creating an inner container of safety. Imagine you feel a wave of anxiety. The old habit might be to immediately try to fix it. Why am I anxious? What's wrong with me? I need to do some breathing exercises to make this go away. This is the inner handyman with the toolbox. Now, imagine approaching it as a Dharma friend. You pause. You get curious. You might say inwardly, hello anxiety. I see you there. You feel really unpleasant in my chest right now. It's okay. I'm here with you. Tell me more. You are not trying to make it go away. You are simply turning toward it with presence. This inner listening is the foundation of all outer listening. If you can meet your own fear with compassion, you will be able to meet the fear in others. If you can sit with your own sadness without needing to escape it, you will be able to sit with the sadness of a friend. If you can listen to the chaotic, contradictory voices in your own head with patience and acceptance, you will have the capacity to listen to the chaos in another. This practice of inner Dharma friendship is often called self-compassion. It is the radical act of treating yourself with the same kindness you would offer a dear friend who was struggling. It is the recognition that you, too, are worthy of your own attention. You, too, are worthy of being listened to. And from this well of self-acceptance, your ability to be present for others will flow, clear and strong, without the murky waters of your own unexamined pain muddying the stream. Let me share a story about the power of self-listening, about a man named James. James was a successful architect, but he carried a heavy burden. His father had been a cold, critical man who had died 10 years earlier. James had never been able to tell his father how much his words had hurt him, how he'd spent his whole life seeking an approval that never came. The resentment was a cold stone in his gut. A friend, a therapist, suggested he try a practice. She told him, "Write your father a letter. Don't hold back. Say everything you've always wanted to say. But don't send it. This letter is for you." At first, James thought it was silly. His father was gone. What was the point? But he tried it. He sat down one evening with a notebook and a pen. He started writing, and the words poured out. He wrote about specific memories, the time his father had torn apart his first architectural drawing when he was 16, the way he'd never shown up for his school plays, the stinging silence at the dinner table. He wrote about the pain, the anger, the deep, unfulfilled longing for his father's love. He wrote for 3 hours, filling page after page. He cried as he wrote, something he hadn't done since he was a child. When he finished, he felt a strange sense of release. He read the letter over. He saw his own pain on the page. He saw the lonely boy he had been, and the man he had become, still carrying that boy's sadness. He didn't mail the letter. He folded it up and put it in a drawer. A few days later, he took it out and read it again. This time, he tried to listen to it not as the angry son, but as a compassionate witness. As he read, a new feeling arose, not just anger, but a profound sadness for his father. He thought about his father's own life, growing up during the Depression, the son of an immigrant, forced to work from a young age. He realized, with a flash of insight, that his father had never learned how to give love because he had never received it himself. He was a broken man, passing on his brokenness. James hadn't excused his father's behavior, but he had, for the first time, understood it. By listening deeply to his own story, by giving voice to his own pain, he had opened a door to a larger wisdom. The stone of resentment in his gut had not vanished, but it had cracked. A little light had gotten in. This is the work of being your own Dharma friend. To listen to your own heart with such honesty and compassion that you can eventually hear the suffering that connects you to everyone, even those who have hurt you. As we draw near the end of our time together tonight, I want to leave you with a single, simple image to carry with you. It's the image of a bowl. Imagine you are holding a beautiful, simple clay bowl in your hands. When you are with a friend, and they are speaking, imagine that your entire being, your mind, your heart, your awareness, is that bowl. Your only job is to hold it steady. Your friend is pouring their thoughts, their feelings, their fears, their joys, their broken pieces, into this bowl. They are entrusting you with their inner world. The practice of deep listening is the practice of holding that bowl with steady, gentle hands. It's not about analyzing what's being poured in. It's not about filtering it. It's not about adding your own ingredients to the mix. It's not about judging whether what's being poured in is good or bad, right or wrong. It is simply about holding the bowl steady, creating a safe container so they can pour it all out. Sometimes, what they pour will be hot, like anger. Your job is to hold the bowl, to let it be hot without dropping it or throwing it back. Sometimes it will be heavy, like grief. Your job is to hold the bowl, to feel the weight without collapsing under it. Sometimes it will be delicate and precious, like a newfound joy. Your job is to hold the bowl, to protect that fragile treasure. This is the role of the Dharma friend. You are not the one who provides the water. You are not the one who drinks the water. You are simply the one who holds the bowl. And in that simple act of holding, a profound healing takes place. The person pouring feels seen, feels held, feels safe. They realize they are not alone with the contents of their heart. And in that moment of shared vulnerability, the bowl itself becomes sacred. It becomes a vessel of connection, a testament to the quiet, powerful practice of deep listening. So, how do we take this vast, beautiful teaching and bring it into our everyday lives? It can feel overwhelming. We can't be perfect listeners all the time. We will get distracted, we will interrupt, we will try to fix things. That's part of being human. The path isn't about perfection, it's about practice. It's about the intention and the gentle, persistent return. Here are a few small, actionable ways to bring the practice of being a Dharma friend into your week. 1. The one breath pause. Before you respond to anyone in conversation this week, just take one conscious breath. Just one. That tiny pause can be the difference between a reaction and a response. It gives you a moment to check in with your hindrances and choose how you want to show up. 2. The technology fast. For one meal this week, perhaps dinner with your family or a coffee with a friend, put your phone in another room. Completely out of sight. Commit to being fully present for that entire time. Notice what it feels like to not have the option of distraction. Notice the quality of the conversation. 3. The tell me more experiment. The next time someone shares a problem with you, resist the urge to offer advice or share a similar story. Just say, tell me more about that. And then listen. See where it leads. Notice how it feels for you, and notice how they respond. 4. The self-check-in. At the end of each day, take just 2 minutes to sit quietly. Ask yourself, when did I feel truly heard today? When did I truly hear someone else? What got in the way? This isn't about self-criticism. It's just gentle observation, planting the seeds for future practice. These are small steps, but they are powerful. They are the training wheels for the heart. With each small act of deep listening, you strengthen your capacity to be a true friend. You build the inner muscles of patience, compassion, and presence. And you begin to create small oases of genuine connection in a world that often feels parched for it. As we come to the close of our time together here at Monk's Temple, I want to thank you for the gift of your attention. You have been practicing deep listening just by being here, by following these words, by holding this space in your own mind and heart. You have been, in this moment, a Dharma friend to yourself, and to me. Remember that the path of the Dharma friend is not a destination. It is an endless path, a practice for a lifetime. There will be days when you listen beautifully, when your heart is wide open and your presence is a balm. And there will be days when you are distracted, when your own hindrances get the better of you. On those days, simply notice, without judgment, and begin again. The most important person to practice with is the person right in front of you. The most important conversation is the one you are having right now. The most important word to hear is the one being spoken in this moment. Go forth from this place, from this moment of quiet contemplation, and into your life. Offer the gift of your presence. Hold the bowl of your attention steady for the people you meet. Be a witness to their joys and their sorrows. In doing so, you will not only transform your relationships with others, you will transform your relationship with yourself. You will discover that in the act of truly hearing another, you are also, finally, learning to be heard. And in that mutual recognition, in that shared silence, you will touch something timeless, something deeply peaceful, something that the Buddha pointed to over 2,000 years ago, the end of suffering, born from the simple, profound act of listening with your whole heart. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. May you be a good friend to yourself, and may you find good friends to walk beside you on the path. Until next time, from all of us at Monk's Temple, go in peace.